Hello, beautiful people. My name is Athol, and this is Relationship Momentum. So let's look through this article. Half of those thinking of divorce reconsider a year later, and it's a University of Alberta study. Their theory being marriage has its ebb and flows. A lot of them just need some time. And I happen to agree with this. There is an element of caveat to it, which we will get deeper in this article. But I really do believe that it is true. And I think if you think of relationships having a sort of a natural happiness scale between 0 being absolutely terrible, 100 being beyond amazing, I think most relationships have a sort of a resting happiness, a resting relationship momentum number of about 80%. And 80% is good, it's great. People are genuinely happy. And I think if you are in that sort of honeymooning period, everything is going amazing, it will slowly drift down to 80 eventually. And if you are unhappy, you're somewhere between 0 and 79, slowly over time the relationship will improve to that natural resting place of about 80% happiness. Which is why, as we get into this article, where they start off with saying 1 out of 4 of the respondents said they'd thought about divorce in the last 6 months, but the study suggests half of those considering divorce had a significant change in their feelings when they were asked again a year later. So their relationship has drifted down, a bunch of bad things have happened, there's been money issues, there's been a sick kid, someone's mother came to visit, whatever it was, the relationship drifts down to 30-35%. Both people are kind of unhappy, they're kind of idly thinking of divorce but not really doing anything. And then a year later, it's drifted back to somewhere more positive. It's going back to that sort of natural resting place of about 80%. And they haven't necessarily done anything to try and make that happen. They haven't necessarily done marriage counseling. They haven't necessarily read a bunch of books or done anything differently other than time has passed and the relationship has drifted back to an okay place. And I think that's really helpful to know that this can happen in relationships. Or as they say, a lot of them just need some time. Of those who said they thought about divorce in the past but not recently, about 80% said they were glad they stuck it out with their spouses. And this is all good news. So then they talk about too that how people fell into different groups in thinking about this. The third group, dubbed conflicted thinkers, yielded some intriguing results, they said. That group was dealing with more intense issues such as adultery, addiction, and abuse, and it was the smallest of those 3 groups. While they were most hopeful initially, they ended up having the highest rate of divorce of the 3 groups a year later. And this again is really important to think about in terms of relationship momentum. Your relationship can go down to a bad place, but there's not necessarily anything hugely structurally wrong with your relationship. It's a bunch of circumstances. It's things kind of sort of happening to you, but the structure of the relationship is reasonably intact. And given time, things will improve. However, when you have things like adultery, addiction, abuse, and I would add things to that like violence, super long-term unemployment, these are long-term sort of structural negatives that are slowly dragging the relationship down. If you have an addiction problem or abuse problem, there's violence, these are negative things, -1 events ticking over in the background constantly. So the relationship might want to improve, but it's always being dragged down by these deep structural things. So what do we take away from this? And again, this is all falling perfectly into the relationship momentum theory. Relationship momentum is a very real thing. It works for you and can definitely get your relationship to a better place. And for the most part, you should have a lot of hope that you can improve things unless you can see some really clearly defined crappy stuff.